A group of archaeologists discovered an ancient machine that could not only alter time itself but also change human destiny. But the dangers they would have to face to obtain it were completely unknown. This adventurous story begins during World War II, where the Nazis had a massive camp and were preparing for an attack. Their entire army was overwhelming Europe, and it seemed like they would win. Amidst this war, we are introduced to an archaeologist named Jones, who had come there on a secret mission to steal an ancient artifact that the Nazis had brought from Europe. This artifact was so valuable that it was worth billions of dollars on the black market. Whoever possessed it became extremely fortunate, as these antiques held mysterious superpowers. Because of this, everyone wanted to claim it. Jones, along with his companion Basil, infiltrated the Nazi stronghold to steal it. Basil, a professor at Oxford University, was also a part-time archaeologist and often assisted Jones on his missions. Together, they sneaked in, but the Nazi leader caught them. Jones was captured, beaten, and brought before the colonel, who demanded to know his purpose. The colonel suspected Jones was after the artifact but wanted to uncover his deeper plans. Since Jones refused to speak, the colonel handed him over to Waller, an astrologer who also worked as an investigator, to extract the truth. Despite interrogation and torture, Jones revealed nothing. The colonel then decided to relocate the artifact for safety, ordering his soldiers to transport it by train. At the same time, Jones was sentenced to death by hanging to prevent any chance of theft. The soldiers prepared the execution, tightening the noose around his neck. Jones's fate, however, took a sharp turn when a massive bomb exploded nearby, killing many soldiers and injuring him as well. Realizing the artifact was on the train, Jones seized the chance. He attacked a Nazi driver, killed him, disguised himself in the uniform, and took the vehicle to chase the train. But trouble arose when two Nazi soldiers unknowingly joined him in the car, unaware that their driver was actually Jones. He remained calm, suppressing any reaction, and kept driving straight toward his mission. Side by side, Jones could see the train carrying soldiers and the ancient artifact. He had to get it at any cost. Swerving his vehicle sharply toward the train, nearby soldiers immediately realized he was the enemy. Jones started shooting them down and, in the chaos, leapt onto the moving train. Now came his true test: how he would survive in this critical condition. Alone against dozens of soldiers, capture meant certain death. Inside the train, Colonel had Basil tied up, torturing him relentlessly. Basil, being a professor with no knowledge of combat, eventually broke under the pressure. He revealed that Jones wasn't there only for the artifact but was actually searching for the Archimedes dial. The colonel didn't understand its importance until Waller arrived and explained that the dial was invented by the great mathematician and scientist Archimedes. It could alter the course of time itself and provide glimpses of the future. Though incomplete, the Nazis possessed its main component, which made it highly valuable. The colonel ordered maximum protection for it, knowing Jones would try to steal it. Soldiers began searching the train. Jones, disguised among the passengers, hid his identity, but his real mission was to rescue Basil. Sneaking into the compartment where Waller held him captive, Jones knocked Waller unconscious and freed his companion. Together, they seized both the artifact and the dial. Their plan was to escape by climbing onto the roof and leaping into a river when the chance came. But the colonel pursued them, attacking with a gun, leading to a fierce battle on top of the speeding train. One wrong step meant death. Basil, badly injured, found himself holding a gun. Though he had never killed anyone before, the situation forced him to shoot the colonel, who fell fatally. Just as Jones and Basil thought they were safe, Waller appeared, pointing a gun at them. He demanded the dial, and Jones reluctantly handed it over. But Basil noticed an upcoming obstacle on the tracks. Signaling Jones, they both ducked in time, while Waller was struck in the head and thrown off the train. Seizing the moment, Jones and Basil leapt into a river, narrowly escaping with their lives. Though they had lost the Archimedes dial, they still had the priceless artifact worth billions on the black market. After this mission, Jones gave up his dangerous pursuits. Years passed, and he grew old, eventually retiring from his job as a professor. Jones thought his life would now be peaceful, but he had no idea that a new adventure was about to begin. Inside a bar, while having a drink, he was secretly followed by a woman who sat beside him and introduced herself as Helena Shaw, the daughter of his old friend Basil. Jones was shocked, as he hadn't been in contact with Basil for years. He remembered Helena from when she was a little girl, but now she had grown into a skilled archaeologist, just like her father. She came to talk about the Archimedes dial, the same object Jones and Basil once found but lost during the train incident. Helena wanted to fulfill her father's dream of uncovering its secrets and insisted that Jones was the only one who could help her. Though older and retired, Jones still carried the regret of never retrieving the dial, so he agreed to assist her. He took Helena to a hidden section of the university library, a restricted archive filled with forbidden books. Jones seemed full of energy again, ready to pursue the dial. But he also knew that tampering with its powers could destroy the world, or even open doors to the multiverse. Meanwhile, another woman named Mason, a secret FBI agent, was also trailing Jones. Mason and her ruthless men wanted the dial too, though their intentions seemed far from noble. They stormed into Jones's workplace with guns, killing his employees who stood in their way. Their cruelty made it clear that if they caught Jones, his fate would be grim. At that time, Jones and Helena were still in the hidden library when they stumbled upon a fragment of the Archimedes dial that had been stored there for centuries. Jones had long known about it but had once instructed Basil to destroy it, fearing its potential dangers. Basil disobeyed and even told his daughter about it. Now, with one piece in their hands, only the second remained to complete the dial. Helena was eager to continue the quest, but before they could plan, Mason and her agents tracked them down. Realizing they were being hunted, Helena grabbed the dial fragment and decided to flee. She locked the door behind her to keep Jones safe, unwilling to risk his life. She ran down into the bustling festival happening outside, a massive annual celebration crowded with thousands of people. In that chaos, finding her would be nearly impossible. Mason and her men cornered Jones at gunpoint. He tried to escape, but age had caught up with him. He no longer had the strength he once did. They overpowered him and demanded information about the Archimedes dial. It was then revealed that, although Mason worked for the FBI, this wasn't an official mission. She and her crew planned to steal the dial for themselves and sell it on the black market for massive profit. Their main problem, however, was Helena, who had already taken the dial fragment and vanished. Jones claimed he had only seen Helena again after many years and knew nothing else, but Mason didn't buy it. They forced him into a van, planning to track Helena using advanced technology. The only issue was the massive city festival blocking the streets. Security officers stopped their van repeatedly, slowing them down, while Helena slipped deeper into the crowd. Mason then decided to move Jones on foot, determined to use him to get closer to Helena. Despite his age, Jones was still clever and brave. He seized an opportunity, mounted a horse, and galloped away. Mason's henchman, Hench, pursued him on a motorcycle. If they lost Jones, finding the dial would be impossible. The chase raged through the city, with Jones relying on the skills and instincts honed from decades of dangerous missions. Eventually, he darted into a metro station, where the chaos separated him from his pursuers. Mason and her men were left stuck outside, frustrated. Furious, Mason immediately called Waller, revealing that Helena had stolen the dial and that Jones was helping her. Meanwhile, Jones tracked Helena to an underground black market auction house. Shockingly, she was trying to sell the dial fragment to wealthy businessmen for the highest bid. Jones confronted her, insisting that they weren't supposed to sell it, they needed to study it and uncover its secrets. But Helena seemed more interested in profit than exploration. Soon after, Waller arrived with his men, revealing that nearly everyone in the auction house was working for him. His plan was simple: no matter who won the bidding, he would take the dial without paying a single cent. Chaos broke out as soldiers stormed the place. Helena stuffed the dial fragment into a bag and handed it to her young companion, Teddy, telling him to keep it safe. As the fighting spread across the room, Waller quickly snatched the bag from Teddy and escaped in his car with the dial. By the time Jones and Helena reached the street, Waller was gone, and heavily armed soldiers blocked their path. Outnumbered, the three, Jones, Helena, and Teddy, had no choice but to run for their lives, leaving the dial behind, at least for now. But now Helena finally realized how wrong she had been. The man she once trusted, Waller, was nothing but a traitor. After a narrow escape, Jones, Helena, and Teddy managed to jump into a car. There, they made a decision: they would work together to reclaim the Archimedes dial. But time was slipping away. Waller was already on a plane, headed to another country to find the second piece of the dial. On board that plane were Mason and her crew, still believing Waller was their partner. Mason thought the plan was simple: sell the dial on the black market and split the profit. She told Waller they would stop at a nearby island, but Waller demanded a boat to leave from there. Mason grew suspicious: if Waller left, he could escape with the dial forever. When she refused, Waller revealed his true colors. On his command, his men drugged Mason and her team. He had been deceiving them from the very beginning. Now, with the dial in his possession, he could do whatever he pleased, and no one could stop him. Meanwhile, Jones, Helena, and Teddy devised a new plan. By combining the scraps of information they had, they concluded the second piece might be near Athens, Greece. Jones felt confident: he had many friends there who could help. After a long journey through Italy, the trio arrived in Athens, where Jones contacted an old ally, Ronaldo, who owned a boat. Together, they set out to sea, sailing toward the possible resting place of the missing piece. On board, Helena recalled something her father had once told her. He had spent years researching the dial, and his theory was that the second piece lay in a sunken ship lost centuries ago. According to records, both fragments were once kept aboard, but the Nazis carried one away while the other sank with the wreck. This revelation electrified Jones and Helena. Their course was already set toward the wreck's location. They could hardly wait to see what would happen once the two fragments were joined. At last, they reached the site. Ronaldo and his divers suited up, plunging deep into the waters in search of the ancient ship. Strange, exotic fish swam around them as they explored the eerie wreck. Finally, they located a heavy chest, which they hauled back to the boat. Inside might be not only the fragment but also hidden treasures. But disaster struck again. Waller had already arrived with his men. He seized the chest and opened it. The fragment wasn't inside. Instead, it contained an ancient stone tablet covered in mysterious inscriptions. Convinced this tablet held directions to the missing piece, Waller demanded Jones translate it. Jones refused, enraging Waller. Without hesitation, Waller shot Ronaldo dead, Jones's loyal friend. Waller then aimed his gun at Jones, ready to kill him too. At that moment, Helena stepped in. She offered to decode the tablet in exchange for payment. True to her opportunistic nature, she demanded diamonds as her price. Waller agreed, handing them over. Pretending to cooperate, Helena began explaining the tablet's script while edging closer to Jones. Hidden in his pocket was a small bomb. Secretly, Helena's plan was to mislead Waller, then strike. She lit the bomb and hurled it toward Waller. A massive explosion ripped through the boat, throwing everyone into chaos. Seizing the moment, Helena grabbed the tablet, pulled Jones and Teddy to a smaller boat, and together they made their escape. Their motorboat sped far out to sea, leaving Waller raging in fury. But he wasn't the kind of man to give up the chase. By now, Jones had regained some trust in Helena, yet they both knew the tablet was the only key to locating the second fragment. Of course, everything Helena had decoded for Waller earlier had been lies. When Jones examined the tablet himself, he noticed its unusual weight. Suspicious, he poured alcohol over it and set it alight. The surface burned away, revealing a hidden golden compass, ancient, intricate, and clearly designed to point the way to the missing piece. Following its directions, they sailed for hours until they reached a remote island with a small, peaceful population. Clues led them to believe the fragment was hidden in the caves of Dionysus, a network of mountains nearby. For a brief moment, Jones and Helena felt safe, away from Waller's shadow. But trouble lingered. Teddy, still mischievous and poor, dreamed of selling the artifacts for a fortune and even stole some money for ice cream. As he wandered, he stumbled upon a boat, occupied by none other than Waller himself. Waller's men quickly captured Teddy, kidnapping him in a van. Jones saw it happen but chose not to tell Helena right away, focusing instead on the mission. Together, Jones and Helena ventured into the caves. Darkness surrounded them, and enormous centipedes crawled across the walls, dropping onto their bodies and biting them. Pressing forward, they discovered an ancient statue said to mark Archimedes' resting place. There, near a skeletal figure, clearly Archimedes himself, they uncovered the second fragment of the dial. Jones also noticed something deeply unsettling. Beside the skeleton lay a modern wristwatch. How could such an object exist in Archimedes' era? The only explanation was that the dial allowed time travel. Before they could process the revelation, Waller stormed in with his men. He captured Jones and Helena, seizing both fragments. With cold precision, he combined them, activating the dial. Teddy tried to intervene, but Waller opened fire, wounding Jones. Helena managed to drag Teddy away to safety, but Jones lay bleeding. Waller completed the dial's mechanism, placing a watch inside and transforming it into a functioning time machine. His plan was sinister: travel back to the Second World War and ensure a Nazi victory. As the dial activated, the sky above tore open into a swirling portal leading to another timeline. Waller commandeered a plane, bringing Jones aboard as a prisoner, and prepared to fly straight into the rift. Helena, realizing the catastrophic consequences of altering the past, knew she had to stop him. She and Teddy rushed to a nearby military base, hijacked the plane, and gave chase. Inside the aircraft, Jones warned Waller, tampering with time could unleash devastating consequences. There was no guarantee he would even arrive in the era he wanted. But Waller refused to listen. Waller struck Jones hard across the head, knocking him unconscious. Gripping the controls, he forced the plane straight toward the glowing rift. Behind him, Helena clung to her own aircraft, refusing to let him vanish into history unchecked. Both planes pierced the portal in blinding light. But when the storm of colors faded, they were not above Europe in the 1940s. Instead, they burst into the skies of 212 BC, directly over a raging battlefield where Roman legions clashed in brutal formation. Spears rattled against shields, war cries thundered, and fire consumed the horizon. Waller had chosen the wrong era. Helena acted fast. She leapt from her cockpit onto Waller's aircraft, clinging to its metal frame as the wind howled around her. Forcing her way inside, she fought through chaos and wrenched open the lower hatch. One by one, Waller's men were sucked into the open air, tumbling helplessly into the ancient battlefield below. Jones stirred awake amid the struggle, his head pounding. Seeing an opening, he seized a parachute. Helena was at his side in an instant. Together, they leapt into the open sky, leaving Waller to his fate. Moments later, his plane spiraled downward in flames, smashing into the Roman lines with a thunderous explosion. Waller's reign of terror ended in fire and ruin. Jones and Helena landed roughly on the blood-soaked ground. Around them, Roman soldiers clashed in savage combat, their armor glinting in the firelight. Amid the chaos, an old man approached. His gaze was sharp, his presence commanding. From the wreckage, he lifted the dial with careful hands, studying it as though he already understood its secrets. Unlike the others, he recognized Jones and Helena for what they were, not enemies, but travelers from another age. Jones's heart pounded. He realized they were not simply exploring history, they were standing in it. The very ground beneath their feet belonged to the past he had dedicated his life to studying. For him, this was paradise. Helena urged him to return, warning that staying here could fracture everything they knew. But Jones resisted. His voice shook with conviction. His entire life had been devoted to history, and now he had the chance to live within it. Before they could argue further, a Roman soldier lunged at them, blade raised. But a shot cracked the air, dropping the soldier instantly. The marksman revealed himself to be the old man. Slowly, he stepped into the light, and Jones's breath caught in his chest. The man was not just any survivor of the battle. He was Archimedes himself. Archimedes extended the dial, his voice grave yet kind. He insisted they take it and return to their own time. Jones was overwhelmed. To stand face to face with the legend he had studied all his life was beyond any discovery he had ever dreamed of. He wanted to stay. He wanted to remain in the world of Archimedes, to let history be his home. But Helena made the choice for him. With tears burning in her eyes, she struck Jones across the jaw, knocking him unconscious once again. Clutching the dial, she dragged him back through the portal. When Jones awoke, he was back in his own time. The mission was complete. He had solved the mystery of the dial, witnessed history unfold, and stood in the presence of Archimedes himself. His lifelong quest had come full circle. And then, something he never expected, his wife, who had once walked away, returned to him. This time, she was here to stay. For the first time in years, Jones was not alone. Together, they would face the days ahead. His greatest adventure had ended, but his story was far from over.